My home was an overly crowded refugee camp living. My roof was the hovering sky and the deviating horizon, but it still was the solitude I used to breathe in. My home was the overly crowded refugee camp living. My roof was the hovering sky and the deviating horizon, but it still was the solitude I used to breathe in. Dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tara Nepal. I'm a former refugee from Bhutan who had to flee Bhutan along with his family back in the early 90s due to ethnic cleansing. Lived in Nepal. First started my refugee camp living on the bank of river in Nepal as refugee camps were not established. Lived there for 18 years. So when I speak particularly about my journey of coming to the US as a refugee, it takes me to 2008, and the entire process took about like 2 years, I would say, from the initial phase where you would be interviewed and would be done like some intakes and all this and that, and the Department of Homeland Security, the government people who go stay there, and then they interview you very rigorously, so as to make sure that you don't kind of pose any kind of threat, after you come to US. So they wanted to make sure that you're all clear to go. And they also do they would also do something like medical health screening. They do like very thorough health screening to make sure that if there is anything that needs to be treated before you fly into the US. And they also do like orientation to teach you a little bit about how life is in America and what is expected of you once you get here, just briefly, But to tell you, just to summarize, and then to tell you that the entire process is not that easy. It wasn't that easy. It was a very rigorous vetting process that we had to go through, before we even finally set our feet on the land here. So it's a very tough situation. So when I think about refugee camp and the living, I always say it, and I would always say this way, because it's always tough. It's always tough, and it's like living a life, and making castles in the air with your desires and wants, and sometimes even the needs. You have to tell your needs, that you please wait and keep living there and surviving and keeping your hope alive. So it was back in 2008 when I think of this, that was like the day, that was like the day I got my second chance in life to rebuild and to revive and thrive, I would say, because my hope that that was the only companion that I was living with. One day, humanity is there, and if one part of the world didn't see that or didn't seem to recognize and make us flee our own place of birth and our country of birth, where we lived generations and generations, but that got to be some other parts of the world, that would see that humanity in me and within me, all that, and it was just a hope, I would say. So that's what kept me alive. And when I talk about that limbo and living, all that kind of things, it's really hard, because that always used to be like questions on how, why, all this and that, why we had to leave and all these kind of things. But in general, the entire journey, very rigorous vetting process, and entire journey remained being life-changing in a way, I would say. Because when we first started, we had to gate, even before you fly, there is a pre-departure, the health screening to make sure that you are still okay. Pre-departure orientation that they give you, still to make sure you are good to go, and they make sure on everything. And once you clear all those tests and interviews and screenings and all that, then you are finally ready to come to the US, And I have a little bit something I wanted to share, as I lived in the camp and I didn't have so much exposure and knowing or access to what it is, how things are in America, and I didn't know much about places and names, all this and that. So as I was flying, with my family, I had in the plane my elderly dad, elderly mom, and my sister as well. They were on different seats, and I was by myself, and next to me there was a gentleman. I vividly remember, but I think he said like he was from Scottsdale in Arizona. So he saw me with that bag, the IOM, white big letters, IOM, International Organization for Migration. So I had that, and he asked me where I'm coming from and where I'm heading to. And I told him that, a little bit about where I'm from and all that. And I told him, yeah, and then I'm going to Phoenix, I said. And when I said Phoenix, and Phoenix, where? Phoenix. And he goes confused. And I said, Phoenix in Arizona. And he goes, there is no any city that I remember has that name in Arizona. And I tried my other way. I spelled the city name to him, and then he goes, that's not Phoenix. He laughs first, and then he goes, that's not Phoenix, that's Phoenix. And that's how I learned my first, the first correct pronunciation of the city that I was actually gonna call my home with my family. So overall, and there is also something I wanted to touch base briefly on my experience after we arrived in Phoenix. So it was a nighttime, and the caseworkers comes to the airport, and welcomes us, and it was a very incredible experience. I was very lucky, my family and I were very lucky to have the International Rescue Committee in Phoenix to welcome us with open arms, and the local community in Phoenix. I'm always indebted, and I have so much profound respect and gratitude to the communities in Phoenix and to the resettlement agency that I belonged and was resettled by. The way they made it so easy, although as we all know that the U.S. refugee resettlement entire process is a rapid employment-based program. People you have to work to support your family. That is just that initial funding that is available just to give you that initial support. So that way you are able to get your documents, social security and all this and that, and so you can just start preparing yourself and get to work and support your family on your own. So, but the entire process, they help us transition so smoothly. So I'm always, very, very much thankful and very appreciative of what they have done, and always indebted, always, and have my respect so much to the U.S. Refugee Resettlement Program and the U.S. communities, everybody who ever supported us along the way. So this is all I just wanted to share with you, and I hope you enjoyed it. There is also something that I wanted to quickly touch base also, if that is okay, that I wrote. I'll try to read it a little bit faster, so I save some time there. So let me try. I'm trying to read it out from the computer screen, although I wrote it myself. So, through the eyes of humanity to the world of refugees, explained below is how I relate to it as a former refugee. From one country to another, and from continent to continent, from having to flee the motherland to seeking refuge in a foreign land, from escaping persecution to struggling for safety and survival, from having to spend decades in the refugee camp to being in limbo and fretting, but still making sure to keep the living thirst and hope alive, hoping to be rescued from such never-ever experienced state, insanely all full of despair and despondency, pushing everything at stake. No refugees willingly and intentionally at any cost would ever bid such an ultimate goodbye to their place of birth, knowing that it is impossible to retrieve once it is gone, and that they must instead begin new life while missing the places they used to belong. Every single refugee story, one way or the other, is a portrayal resembling resilience to continue not to give up, no matter how tough and rigid the circumstances may be. Deep inside, they firmly believe that humanity does exist, and reluctantly anticipate in the eyes of humanity of favor and fairness to shower some compassion with sympathy and empathy into their world of being a refugee. To keep hoping and praying for that time to kick in, whereby they may be able to revive, thrive, and smile again In other words, the world of refugees does constitute such days and nights where often the days unfortunately approach with darkness and the nights appear helpless. It's a journey of subduing desires and wants and undergoing scarcity even with their basic needs. So when I see a fellow refugee, I instantly see another me, and as everyone does, I do see humanity within me. So in solidarity, let's continue looking through the eyes of humanity and continue doing the best possible in welcoming every single refugee community. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching and listening to my video, and really appreciate it. So this concludes my journey as to where I came from and how the entire process was. Thank you really so much. Thank you.